This is Brass Check, and we're recording this on Wednesday. No, yes, it is Wednesday. Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. And we need to timestamp everything because, strangely enough, we often are the first people reporting something. So before I get to today's revelation, I want to talk about China, and actually today's revelation is about China, but I want to give some perspective. I hear a lot of people calling this the Wuhan virus or saying that China released it or China's got this grand plan and they released it, but they actually had the vaccine and they knew that we were going to go crazy and they're just sitting back and laughing and they're the master strategists and oh my God, And I just want to put this in some perspective. Okay. In the 1930s, it wasn't China that starved the U.S. of capital and financing and sent all of our money to Germany to build up their war machine and elevate Adolf Hitler. It wasn't the Chinese that did that. It was Americans that did that. The Ford, GM, IBM, Chase Manhattan, the Rockefellers. Let's fast forward to this 1960s, just 20 years after the end of World War I. It wasn't the Chinese, end of World War II. It wasn't the Chinese that tricked us into invading Vietnam and destroying that country and destroying our own country in the process. Chinese had nothing to do with that disaster. That was Americans. And it wasn't Chinese who cooked up the HIV equals AIDS, therefore let's test everybody and give everybody who's positive AZT and kill them. Chinese didn't cook that up. That was Americans. And interestingly enough, the guy that helped cook that up, Tony Fauci, is still alive and still kicking. So Chinese had nothing to do with that. The Chinese did not put Ronald Reagan in the White House. The Chinese did not put George Bush in the White House. The Chinese did not put Bill Clinton in the White House, though there were some bribery going on that Clinton did benefit from. But they didn't put him in the White House. Chinese didn't organize 9/11. The Chinese didn't persuade us to invade Iraq and be responsible for the death of over 1 million civilians and untold horror. Didn't tell us to destroy Libya, didn't tell us to destroy Syria. They didn't organize the subprime fraud. Okay? All these things were done by Americans. So, do I think the leaders of China are capable of all kinds of evil machinations? Yes, I do. Just like our leaders, just like Russian leaders, just like leaders of any big institution. Those leadership spots tend to attract psychopaths who behave in a psychopathic way. So yes, I have, I'm not going to deliver a bouquet of roses to the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. But to go on and on about how this is all a Chinese plot, it may be, but it's not logical. We don't need to look to China to see who designed, engineered, and is executing this thing. Okay. The very same people that have been executing public health frauds for the last 40 plus years are the same people that are executing this one. And as the great Dr. Zach Bush, and there are some great doctors out there, says, there is no science out there that is so sophisticated as to create this kind of a ever-changing virus that one country can handle and another country can't. So now that that's done, let me offer you a very interesting insight I got from somebody. So I keep asking the question, and I seem to be the only one asking it, and nobody's answering it. How did the U.S. lose supposedly 500,000 people to COVID while the Chinese lost less than 5,000? Yes, that's right. They have 4 times our population, but we had 100 times the COVID deaths. Well, we know that most of those deaths had nothing to do with COVID. The death certificates were fraudulent. But still, people were dying of something. And in China, apparently they weren't. Now, the glib answer is, oh, China's lying. Well, I got a really interesting answer from a frankly brilliant man who was originally born in China. He immigrated 20 years ago to North America, and he was thoroughly trained in Chinese medicine when he was in China, and he continues to practice Chinese medicine today. And he's as smart and accomplished and as subtle a thinker as you will find anywhere in the world. He also knows Chinese culture and Chinese history really, really well. And here's what he told me. In China, 2 things. Number 1, the idea of a mass quarantine of everybody is 1,000 years old in Chinese medicine. They have been doing stuff like this, locking their population down to try to prevent the spread of a contagious and dangerous disease for over 1,000 years. Didn't know that. And I guarantee nobody else that you know is talking about this. So this is something that they've done for a long time. So when confronted with what they believe is a deadly disease, they will sometimes go into lockdown. So that's number 1. But the other thing he said is the following. He says in China, doctors have one job, which is to cure and save people. Period. In the US and Canada and other modern places, they have to follow the standard of care. If the standard of care says put somebody on a vent and kill them, most doctors will put the person on a vent and kill them. China, they don't play it that way. They do everything they can to keep the person alive, whatever it takes. They don't worry about a standard of care. And he believes that's why the outcome in China was so much better than the outcome in the United States or the outcome in any other developed country. And if you've had a chance to listen to the account of the absolute mayhem that took place in New York City run hospitals in April and May and June of 2020. Mayhem, slaughter. And we'll post it down there so you can listen to it if you haven't heard it. You will understand how deadly dangerous this standard of care, basically dictatorship is. The standard of care is a bunch of pharmaceutical executives and medical equipment makers and insurance companies get together with, a few so-called scientists and medical scientists that they've paid off, and they figure out what is the most profitable thing for them. And they then establish that as the standard of care, and any doctor or hospital that doesn't follow the standard of care is putting itself in line for a lawsuit. So in other words, if the standard of care is absolute crap and you kill one patient after another, that's okay. If you don't follow the standard of care and cure somebody, we've actually seen this happen in the COVID arena. If you don't follow the standard of care but actually cure people and save their lives, you can lose your medical license. That's how insane our medical system is. And they don't have that in China. Your job is to save people's lives, whatever it takes. So some insights into China that you almost certainly not getting anywhere else. If you're a supporter of Brass Check, thank you very much. That's why we're able to do this. If you're not a supporter, remember, you get the news you deserve. Everybody pays for their cable, everybody pays for their internet, everybody pays when they get the newspaper and a magazine at the supermarket. People need to, I think, rethink how they support the information they get. I think if you have been following our reporting on this story from day one, and I mean February 1st, 2020, you'll know this has been at least among the best reporting out there, and possibly the best. And given that this was the biggest story of our era, that's pretty significant. So, we have a donation button. I think you should consider hitting it, because you are not getting this kind of insight from anywhere else. So that's the news about China, and this has been Brass Check. To all our supporters, thank you very much, and to people that are considering supporting us, I think it's a good idea. Okay, good luck. Bye.